Page 71 of the PBS Table 27, looking at Air Force deliverables flying hours. It's one of the useful metrics to see how systems are working. A few years ago we had problems with the ADF pilot training system and that was impacting on the throughput of pilots. Just noticing the long-term expectation of 26,820 hours, the achieved performance last year of 22,000 hours. Could you just give us a brief update on whether that's significant in terms of an underfly, or is the system actually generating what you need at the moment in terms of input into operational conversions?
Thank you, Senator. Air Marshal Rob Chipman, Chief of Air Force. We are achieving what we need, but we are also seeking to have the capacity in our training system.
Sorry, could you just move the microphone closer?
We are achieving the flying hours that we need in our training system today, but we are also looking for the capacity to grow our flying training system in the future. And there's been a number of innovations to do that. The most significant has been to do all through flying training both at East Sale and at Pearce, which we expect to go to in the next couple of years to make sure that we've optimised our training capacity.
So are there any operational conversion courses which have vacancies on them because you don't have people graduating from 1 FTS and 2 FTS?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Could you take that on notice? Thank you. And Deputy Chief, welcome. Looking at Table 25, so that's on page 67, I noticed the target last year was for 1,500 hours on the UH-60 Mike, but the expected achievement is just over half of that at 880. So I'm aware this is a new program, but could you talk to the committee about why we've not achieved the target and what are the issues that you're working through with that program?
Sure. Actually, I'm going to refer, if you don't mind, Senator, to General King. You can answer that.
Sure.
Good afternoon, Senator. Major General Jeremy King, Head Joint Aviation Systems Division. So that project was approved at the start of last year. Prior to that, we had a set arrival date for the aircraft. So those aircraft started arriving from mid last year, and we've had 3 aircraft arriving. So as a result of that adjustment, the expectation was that that fleet would fly about 700 hours this year, this financial year. At this point, they're just about to fly 700 hours, and we're anticipating about 850 hours. So we've managed to get about 25 hours per aircraft per month, and we're just about to induct the second batch of 3 aircraft to commence flying. So that figure predates the schedule that eventuated, and we've adjusted that figure. I believe there's a footnote there that refers to that in relation to the plane introduction to service, I think footnote E.
Sure. So in terms of the tailing off of the cessation of flying of the Taipan, obviously you had the AW139 and the H135, both have lines of effort here. How is the currency of pilots across Army Aviation against what they are required to have and these 2 lines of effort? As in, is it sufficient to keep aircrew current while they're waiting for the Black Hawk to be introduced?
So I'm speaking a little bit out of my lane, but what has been occurring in relation to training of pilots has been not just domestic training but also taking advantage of overseas opportunities. And so that's how we've managed to, in part, treat that aspect around a lack of aircraft flying with MRH-90 not flying.
So
and I might just support that.
Sure.
So I think we've trained, and I'll make sure I check this to confirm it, but I think we've trained something like over 20, 25 pilots through the American system. The Americans are leaning forward to make sure that we can, bridge that gap and make sure that we've got enough sufficient qualified pilots for the introduction of the Black Hawk.
Sure. So 25 would not cover all the people who were flying Taipan. So my question is, with the AW139 and the H135, is that adequate to keep the remainder of those Taipan pilots current in flying?
Yes, Senator. Yeah.
Okay. Final question for Army. After the MRH accident in the wet Sundays, the opposition did receive a brief. One of the questions I asked at the time was, what internal review or reflection are you doing around the governance of the aviation asset, so that ahead of things like the AIT or the Inspector General's report. You can look at lessons learned to make sure the governance of CH47, Tiger, etc. are sound. Has anything occurred in that space?
Senator, I don't know. I'll have to refer and talk back to the Aviation Commander, but I'm not come prepared to answer that question.
General King, are you aware if anything's occurred in that place?
Look, I think that question's best responded to through the Aviation Commander, Senator.
So I'll take it on
But
notice.
my question, though, is are you aware, has anything occurred in that space?
Senator, I know the Aviation Command is looking at that, but I don't know it well enough to give you the particulars of what they're doing. But absolutely, we are looking at that sort of thing.
So, Air Marshal Chipman, as the Airworthiness Authority, do you have any oversight or insight into internal reviews?
Yes, Senator, the airworthiness process has continued to function as normal, and in fact there was an airworthiness board that was run on CH47 Enterprise recently.
Sure, but in terms of the lessons learned from the MRH incident, what I'm asking is to make sure that we are operating this enterprise as effectively and safely as possible. Has anything occurred in terms of internal review? And I guess I'm just asking you as sort of the ultimate airworthiness authority, are you aware if anything has occurred in that space?
So, Senator, where there are any lessons that are derived through investigation into that accident, then they're fed immediately back into the aviation system, and they might apply more broadly beyond Army Aviation to the entire ADF. And in fact, they might apply to other operators of the same aircraft type. So as lessons are identified through the investigation process that apply immediately, then they pass back immediately. But we are very cautious not to preempt the findings of the investigation until it's complete, so that we avoid coming to the wrong conclusions about what caused the accident.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.